The State of Rugby in New Zealand, an investigation into the issues facing the sport, a year out from the Rugby World Cup. What the All Blacks mean to New Zealand.
The All Blacks are still easily the one team in this country that will stop the nation. Maybe not the way they did of old, because we live in a modern world now, but they will be the one team that everybody will know how the All Blacks are travelling. You know, they will know if it's a good All Black team or not so good All Black team. They will know who they're playing, when they're playing, and why they're going to be sitting down there watching it. No other team gets close.
But I think because of its tradition, because the fact that we are most of the time number one in the world, and I think rugby will always have a place, and it's just too much a part of our makeup. It's part of the land now, and therefore it seeps into our blood. And you know, I sometimes worry when I hear people decry that rugby is our national sport. But the thing is, it's an awesome game, and to be the best in the world at it is not a bad thing.
You're on the big stage, you know, and in all the games that we played on the tour, we had 60, 70, 80,000 people. I think the smallest crowd was probably Tokyo, but there was 40-odd thousand there. You know, we had 80,000 in Wales, we had 84,000 in Italy, we had 80-odd thousand in England, and there was packed in Marseille, I think it was 60,000 capacity. So they're playing on the big stage against top opposition, and there's nowhere to hide.
Well, it is a difficult task, and as we well know, when the All Blacks play well and play with a lot of excitement and adventure, the public are right behind them. But of course, some of the performances earlier in the year, I guess, weren't up to par, and the public, like anyone, if they're not happy with what they see, they react, and there was a lot of criticism, but you know, the All Blacks took on board those lessons. I think they've restored the faith of the public.
The fans are very knowledgeable in this part of the world, and that's a great thing. That's one of that, by the way, is the reason why the World Cup's going to be here in 2011. It was an appreciation of the New Zealand fans' contribution to the world game, and the All Black game is really an expression of their fans.
And most kids are going to want to aspire to be an All Black, and that's the key dream. I want to be an All Black. They know if they become an All Black, then they're going to become a professional player. If they aspire to be a professional player and drop off the All Blacks, then they really should go and play another game, because that's the wrong way around. You play the rugby to become an All Black. And if you do become an All Black, then it becomes your job. You don't say, I'm going to become a pro player because I like rugby. No, I love rugby because I want to be an All Black. And if we ever lose that, then the rugby's stuffed. And if we ever lose our fan base, the fans, they want to turn the game off, rugby's stuffed also. And that's what I have a big concern about, that some of these fans just might get turned off.
All Blacks! All Blacks! After yet another World Cup defeat, the fans still showed up in force at Christchurch Airport to welcome the team home.
I think that the boys need to be welcomed home in a big way. They've done a good job, and it doesn't matter that they didn't win.
Well, we came to support the All Blacks. We don't want to, be down on them about the game. One game and how long they've lost, so put in a bit of support.
They did their best.
Yeah,
we're proud of them.
Lose. We're still proud.
Usually we've won a lot of games, or the All Blacks have won a lot of games, and you may have had the odd hiccup. This year we'd lost four out of 8 at one stage. And so that particular requirement of winning becomes paramount. And the fear of losing, getting another cross against the team is a major. So I think it does inhibit to some extent.
It's hard to reconcile this kind of recognition and adulation for the fact that we'd lost in the quarter-final. Robbie Deans had moved over to Australia. There was a lot of heat around the fact that he didn't get the All Black job. Graham Henry was retained, and we heard noises coming out of Christchurch in particular about how people are really worried about, Kiwis are going to end up supporting the Wallabies because Robbie's gone over there. And I sat there and thought, whatever anyone might say or think or do now, and it was great fodder for media, but the reality is that come the Bledisloe Cup, 15 All Black jerseys are standing waiting to receive a kick-off. There will not be a New Zealander around the world who would be able to bring him or herself to say, go Wallabies. Never in a million years would a Kiwi ever be able to do that. So it was nonsense. The All Blacks are the embodiment of New Zealand. They are the greatest export that New Zealand has.
You have to go to an All Black coach and say, right, would you do this job because you want to do it for no money? You have to go to the assistants and say the same thing. You have to go to players and say, are we doing this just because there's some money involved? Or are we doing this because we want to do it? Are we playing for each other? Or are we just doing it because we're going to get a check at the end of the game?
You don't have to go to work on Monday morning and worry about holding your job down. Do I have enough money at the end of the week to throw some poached eggs and baked beans on the table for the kids on Saturday morning? Have I got enough to pay for the... where's my petrol money coming from this week? Where's my next job? You don't have any worries about that. There's no financial worries as a current All Black because you're a pro.
At the end of the day, we're human beings. We have a collective responsibility to New Zealand, to the New Zealand public, to an All Black jersey. But at the same time, we're still human. We will make mistakes like everyone else. We will fall short of people's expectations in terms of results on the rugby field. We will make clumsy mistakes as well as individuals, outside the rugby field. But that's just part and parcel of being an All Black.
It's an enormous leap from the New Zealand Cup to international rugby. The step from Super 14 is not as big. So Air New Zealand Cup, Super 14, international rugby, they are the three steps. But it's considerable. Like if you give a mark out of 10, Air New Zealand Cup 5, right? Super 14 7, and international rugby against top international sides 10 out of 10. So that's a difference.
And then once you are at the top, the All Blacks should be a small group around which some other players rotate, and that small group has the best players who play all the time. When you're in that group, it's a very, very tight family that you have to develop, and those players rely on each other a lot, and they are familiar with each other, and they know that it's time to go over the top of over the trenches. There's a trust, and there's an ethos amongst the group, and the others around the edge can rotate a little bit, and that central core needs to be intact, and that central core will deliver the results because they will keep the others around the edge that come in and play a bit part, keep them up to the same standard. They'll insist on standards.
The Richie McCaws and the Daniel Carters and those players, Conrad Smith, I could go on and on. Brad Thorne, Harley Williams, Kevin Mialamu, Mills Miliaina. They are fabulous young men, and I'm very proud to be associated with them. And I think they're great role models for this country. And I've only mentioned half a dozen. I could mention many, many others, and they're highly respected when they tour overseas. There's a lot of very positive comments about how they conduct themselves. I'm just thrilled with what they're doing. They do a huge amount of work behind the scenes to help other people that the general public knows nothing about, which I think's very special. And the more they can develop and be leaders, the better the All Blacks are going to be. So giving them responsibility and increasing that responsibility is great, because I think we'll be a better All Black team because of it. So player power is really positive. Obviously, it's got to be channeled, and people's job like me is to help channel that, but also develop it. We don't want wimps out there. We want assertive people who've got good self-image, who have got belief in themselves and belief in their mates, and I think that's very, very important, especially when you're a very isolated country like ours. And we've probably got a negative Kiwis are probably, generally speaking, we're not exceptionally positive and outgoing. You know, we've probably got a bit of an inferiority complex. So it's very important that these guys are assertive and upbeat and positive and are developing. Otherwise we couldn't compete.
The whole role model aspect, well, you know, on one hand we have to remember that they are young men, that they, you know, just because they represent the nation or the region or the community, that doesn't necessarily automatically give them good moral will, you know, and decision-making ability. It doesn't. It's still up to the personal. And I think the players also have to accept that if they're getting paid to play rugby, they're in a privileged position, and with that comes responsibility. And yes, that's hard, and yes, that's a bummer, and yes, it's a shame that you can't just live your life and be free. But you know what? It's better to be recognised for something good that people enjoy than to get recognised because you're the psycho that, you know, did something horrible that made the news.
I remember this thing, once an All Black, always an All Black. And I've never forgotten that saying from Laurie Mains. And you do, you know, long after you've retired, you know, you're still an All Black. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. With that comes a lot of privileges of being able to walk tall, be proud of who you represent, and not just the All Blacks, but your family and your community. I'm so passionate about it. You know, I still love it. It still gives me, you know, huge thrill. It still makes my hair stand up at the back of my neck when I see the All Blacks do the haka and sing the national anthem. And so you are one of very few people who have been privileged enough to be part of that wonderful, wonderful group of men that's gone before, that is today and still yet to come.